What's up, guys? This is so awesome.
My fight or flight is pretty
My fight or flight is kicking in.
Hi, bud. How's it going, dude? So what have you been working on with him, and what have been your biggest issues you've seen since he's been back?
We've been working like on our bed and sit stays. We did like leash walking over the weekend. Biggest hurdle would probably be his barking.
Barking.
Like, I know you said like he worked at like a really high.
Yeah.
But I noticed when I did 25, like he literally jumps out of his skin.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So the other day we had like a contractor come to the house.
Sure.
Where they were like just outside, and I didn't realize they were outside, but he was just barking up the storm. I'm like, what
Yep.
are you doing, dude? And then he comes in and like I correct him with this, but it doesn't work. And then I go up higher, and then it still doesn't. But you can literally see that
Sure.
it's like bothering him.
Yeah, like he's feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so the biggest thing when it comes to like inhibiting any sort of unwanted behaviors is two things. One, are we catching it consistently, right? So are we actually giving a correction every time he rehearses the behavior, right? And two, is he motivated enough by the correction? So one big thing, so obviously, if 25 is enough and he stops his behavior, hell yeah, right? Like obviously I don't want to have to crank it up if we don't need to, right? But let's say we're correcting at a 25 and I can see he's feeling it, but he's fighting through it, right? He's like, don't like that, but I'm still barking. I don't like it, but I'm still barking, right? I need to continue increasing until it's motivating enough where he cares more about that correction than the behavior. And that's what I was meaning about, like, he works pretty high for some of those types of things where, he may feel it from 25 to 50, 25 to 60, something like that, but maybe he isn't actually motivated enough by it in those settings until it's at a 70, a 75, something like that. So that would be my biggest thing that I would look at. Is he caring enough actually about the correction, right? Because if he's still fighting through it, it's going to be either you're not catching it consistently enough or he's not motivated enough by it. Okay, so what I want to do next here is we're going to work a couple commands with him, and then we'll see if we could simulate some situations where he may get barky and stuff. Okay. Obviously some of that general barking he was doing right there, again, it's up to you how much you want to discourage that, right? If you don't want any barking, fine by me, we would correct for any of that. Some of the just like I'm excited and start barking stuff, I don't really mind a whole lot as long as it's not directed towards something, So right there, he was kind of just amped up and kind of letting out little barks. If that barking was like channeled towards like there was a knock at the door and he like ran over there barking at it or something like that, that's usually where I would kind of step in and discourage it, right? So I want him to hold that bed stay. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go outside for a minute. I'm gonna knock on the door. When I knock on the door, I want you to come over, pretend you're letting me in, and I wanna see if he barks or anything like that. If he gets off the bed, you're gonna correct him, then go put him back on.
Okay.
Hello.
Now.
Perfect. Now go take him back to the bed.
Dash.
Little tough guy. Now, good timing with that, and you could tell that correction, he cared a little bit more about it, right? So we'll give him a second here, then we're gonna run that a few more times. So sometimes I recommend, if you're having the problem a lot, let's say when guests are coming over, you could work this drill with him, right? Whether you have a friend that comes helps you with it, you can even do it yourself, right? If you go out, put him on a bed, go like ring your own doorbell or something like that, and see how he responds to it. Hi, oh, what a cute dog you have over there. A little bit better that time, obviously. He's like, I'd really like to bark at you.
Yeah, you're not tricking me.
Okay, so next what we're gonna have here is I have somebody that in just a second here is gonna come over and try to do it, so we'll see if he gets thrown off with somebody else. Much better. Look at that. All right, so why don't you go ahead and release him off?
Okay. Dash, come.
There we go. We'll let him hang out for a second. Kayla, why don't you like pat him or something? See if you can call him over to you.
Sure thing. Dash, come. Oh, I miss you, man.
So we're gonna give him a second there, and then what you're gonna do is you're actually gonna put him back onto the bed, and I wanna make sure he can disengage from her and go and do that.
Okay.
So whenever you go to do it, get yourself next to the bed first,
Okay.
then give the command.
Okay. Dash bed.
And tell him no.
No.
Then tell him bed again.
Dash bed.
Then we'll see what we get here. Give him a second. See how he's kind of figuring out where he's gotta go. So now tell him no one more time.
No.
Tap your button. And then tell him bed.
Bed. Dash no. Bed.
Perfect. Then go ahead and praise him for that.
Good job, buddy.
So that follow through is really important right there. Because if we were to say give one correction, then a second one, then not give another one, that would teach him that wherever he was when that second correction stopped is the correct thing, which is not the case, right? So if we follow through in those moments until he gets all the way back on the bed, we'll see next time in a second here, it'll take less corrections to get him there. So let's release him off one more time.
Okay, Dash.
And then Kayla, you wanna pat him again?
Dash.
And then we'll give her a second and we're gonna try that again and see if he does it a little bit better this time.
Dash bed.
Perfect. And see how, because we followed through on that last repetition, didn't need any corrections that time. So that's kind of the goal here, is you gotta have that mentality of the mindset of like, these corrections now following through, even though I don't want to, right? We don't wanna have to correct our dog all the time. Even if we don't want to, if we get past those couple, next time we don't have to do it, right? So just kind of keep that in mind as you do this. No, dash, bed.
Like just jumping.
Now keep in mind, right, so the jump that you're seeing right there is more to the response of the no marker than it is to the correction, right? So over time, as we say no, correct, no, correct, no, correct, that no marker starts to kind of establish the same meaning as the correction by itself, right? So you'll see in a lot of cases, like the next time I need to correct, watch, I'll actually not tap the button, I'll just say no, and you'll probably see a response out of him similar to as if he were getting corrected. And that's kind of what we want, because we want that word to have some value to it where it interrupts behaviors right away, right? That being said, we still need to make sure we tap after the fact, because if we don't, eventually that will go away and then it loses its value, right? But the purpose of the no marker is to attach that correction not only to a behavior, but to us. So it's letting him know, I'm the one that's actually giving this consequence right now, not just some tool, right? So in a minute here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna work our come command, so kind of like an off-leash heel, and we're gonna get him to follow you down the hallway here, all the way to the end and all the way back in. But just give him 1 second here. I just wanna wait till this dog goes downstairs. I think he looks good. I think the biggest thing, if anything, that you've had issues with over the last week is probably just not being firm enough on him over stuff, you know? Particularly when it comes to some of the barking and things like that, you know? If he's fighting through it, you know, you're just too low on your level.
Okay.
So, I'd like to see you work some of that like off-leash healing stuff, like around some distractions and stuff, you know? Whether it's a person or a dog or whatever it may be. You know, really try to get that under control, obviously, so he's not going off and veering off to people. I like the doorway drills, working things like that. And if you have guests over, making sure you can disengage him from the guests is very important as well, right? I always want to make sure, no matter how much my guests are getting my dogs amped up, I want to make sure that I could still call them away from that and get them to focus back on me if I need them to. And when you say, again, with the barking one more time, when you say you were having some issues with the barking and stuff, where was it that he's doing a lot of the barking still?
Like inside the house?
Yeah, is it inside of the house that he's doing it, or is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's doing it inside.
And is it when you have people come over, or just when he hears things outside, or?
Usually when like people come over.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, implementing that bed stay when they first walk in, that's the routine I implement with my dogs, you know? So like if anybody comes over my house, usually for the first 5 minutes or so, I put them on their beds, just have them chill there for a minute while my guests come in, get themselves situated and stuff. Then I release them and let them be a part of things. And that gets rid of some of that impulsive reactivity and stuff that you're seeing. If I'm just like, oh my God, somebody's here, I need to be a part of this, you know?
So what if it's the other way around, like we're going to somebody else's house?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to somebody else's house, I'll still implement some sort of structure right off the rip. So let's say I'm going to a friend's house, right? And I walk in with my dog. Usually what I'll do for the first, same deal, 5 minutes or so is maybe put them in a sit stay or something like that. And just have them like, hey, like, let's just stay focused in for a couple minutes here in this new place. I know you're excited to be here, but I want to practice some impulse control. From there, once he's settled down a little bit, release him, let him hang out, let him do his thing. But it's the same concept, you know, we just don't want him going into places and immediately being of the mindset of like, this is mine, you know?
Yeah.
And by implementing some control, we're kind of telling him, hey, it's like a privilege that we're able to go to this place, and you got to be respectful initially, then you can go explore after, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, that applies if I'm going to a friend's house, that applies if I'm going to any sort of public place, like a busy park or something, same deal. You know, my first couple minutes I go there, I'm going to keep my dog under control, because anywhere I'm going to be socializing my dog, whether it's with a person, whether it's with a dog, whether it's with being in a new place, right? I always say I need to make sure I could keep my dog under control around that thing first, so that if I need to reel it back in, I've already checked the box that I can do so, right? Any questions on anything?
Yeah, I have 2 questions before we leave.
Yeah, for sure.
The first one is like when he's like scared of something, like
Sure.
stairs, like if he has like a lot of energy, like he doesn't care.
Yeah.
But then like when we're going up and down, he like tends to not want.
Sure.
So, like how do you?
Good question. So remember I had mentioned a couple times about how he was weird about floors?
Yeah.
Like this room, he would not walk on this room. Like literally, I brought him up here and he laid down on the floor and you could drag him around all day long, he would not move, right? So that's a good example of something that he was scared of, right? Now, let's use your example, the stairs, right? If I don't need for him to actively go up the stairs in that moment, I don't care, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I need for him to go up those stairs, I need to make sure I can get him to do it, right? So we have training established at this point where we can work him past these hurdles. And that's exactly what I did on this floors, right? I taught a really good come command, right? And I just started working the come command on these floors, right? So if he was freaked out laying down right there and I was here and I said come, he still knew he had to do it, right? So I got him essentially to care more about the thing I was asking him to do than that thing he was irrationally scared of, right? Same deal with stairs. If we need to go up the stairs for some reason and he's not all energetic and peppy where he's just gonna go running up them, same deal. I could go up the stairs, dash come, right? I need you to come up right now, and then I could enforce that command if he chooses not to do it, right? So I want to see you work on the doorway stuff with him.
Okay.
I want to make sure the barking looks good. So let's do this. Why don't you work with him for the next week here? Give me an update, shoot me a text in like a week, and just let me know like, hey, things are on track, or we're still having issues with this, or whatever it may be. And if you're still having any problems with anything, we could do another follow-up session in like a week or a week and a half and see where we're at. But if you feel like things are kind of good to go, then we'll do it whenever you start running into issues. So obviously your board and training includes 12 months of follow-up support. So that's basically like as needed. So if you run into an issue a month down the road, 2 months down the road, let me know, we'll get you in, we'll get it worked through, you know? So just keep the communication open. That's the biggest thing post board and train I always say is like you were saying, like he hasn't even been home a week yet. You know, I mean, like it'll be a week and another day, right? So we want to make sure that, you know, as you're putting them through the motions with things, if anything concerning pops up, right, or something that you feel like you don't have a handle on, we want to make sure we get that ironed out, you know? So just keep that communication open. So, but he looks really good. Like I said, I think,
pretty good.
yeah, I think he looks pretty good. I think, you know, like I said, I just want to see you be a little bit more firm on him over some of this stuff so that he doesn't slip back into like getting away with a bunch of stuff, you know? But past that, just keep it up. Just keep doing what you're doing. give her a minute. Hey, there we go. Perfect. And that was a good example, just in general, since we got over here, of like totally generalizing the command to a new environment, right? You can tell she didn't even want to get on the thing at first. We just worked her through it. We made it a little bit more simple for her, and then we got right back to where we were in the other location. So let's do one more of those with the down here, since she did pretty well with that one. All right, let her hang out there. She looks awesome. She picked that up way faster than I thought she was going to. Like I said, that down can be a real pain in the ass for some dogs. So she did pretty good, all things considered, with it. So you can start putting that into practice, work through it the same way we did. So just downs, get those really good. Do some downs on the bed, get those really good. Do some of it off leash, get it good, and then just kind of generalize, stuff like that. Stuff. Oh yeah, there's dog there.
Bed. Okay. Sit. Okay. Bed.
We're gonna do one more sit and one more bed.
Okay.
And just use the leash, no corrections for that or anything. There we go. Anytime we're saying okay, keep in mind there's no expectation after it, right? Okay just means you're free, so if she doesn't get up, that's fine, she doesn't have to. We'll just encourage her off or use the leash or something.
I didn't give her to sit, should I?
So go ahead and tell her sit,
Sit.
and then drop your leash. So even if she's sitting already, you could still initiate the command and start it.
Girl.
One more bed.
Okay. Bed.
Sweet. She's crushing it, man.
Good job, Sally.
She's picking things up really well.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead and release her, let her hang out. She's good. We're gonna end on that. Yeah, I mean, she's flying through things. So obviously add your bed stays in at home. Keep working your sit stays a little bit. You know, obviously the weather kind of sucks now, but I think we're supposed to have a nice week coming up. So try to get some walking in with her and maybe do some walks around distractions, see how she does with that. And we'll kind of just keep pushing things along. We'll get that come command established next time, and we'll probably within the next 2 or 3 sessions be able to start adding Gunner into this.
Okay, cool.
So, but she's cruising along. Okay, so this is a really interesting case of 2 dogs that came to me for an assessment a couple of weeks ago. They've done an extensive amount of training with another trainer before. They weren't having fights per se in the house, but they had a couple altercations that weren't that serious, but she's trying to be proactive about making sure it doesn't turn into a problem, which is fantastic, right? Now, Thor, the Roddy mix of the 2, is the quote-unquote problem child in her eyes. He's the one that kind of quote-unquote went after the other dog a couple of times over miscellaneous things. So she came actually originally of the mentality of, I have to do training with Thor, right? I have to get him under control and make sure that he's not becoming a problem. Session 1 came in, Izzy, the other dog, that German Shepherd, an absolute goddamn anxious mess of a dog. Literally, again, to no fault of the owner or anything like that, the dog is just a basket case, right? And was not able to focus at all away from the owner, was basically because she's kind of like the good child at home, babied a lot, and, kind of very controlling in the house of the owner and stuff like that. And that dog actually wound up being the big problem child. I gotta catch my breath for a second. Okay. That dog actually is the problem child, and that dog's kind of anxious, controlling behaviors have actually been setting Thor off, right? So I'm not saying it's not Thor's problem at all. He has things he needs to work on, but by addressing the root of the problem, which this dog is actually the one that is triggering these fights, that's triggering these emotions coming out of Thor, and because she kind of had a split mindset of this is the bad dog, this is the good dog, we needed to obviously put a lot of our attention onto that, and this dog made massive strides in this session, as you're about to see. So that's the context of this session. Hope you like it. So what's new?
So just kind of focused on, sits for
Yep.
her and, bed for him and
How'd it go?
very well.
Yeah.
I think honestly, we probably, I appreciate like slow and,
Yeah, for sure.
but I think we're ready to maybe, I'm ready for the next thing.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, if we don't need to spend a ton of time on it, we won't. So,
And
yeah.
I think, honestly, we talked about her being nervous, right?
Yeah.
But already, while we've been here this time, we're better.
Good.
Not saying.
That's fine.
She,
She's not whining anywhere near as much as she was last time, so that's good.
in there with the dogs. And,
Yeah.
That's the thing. They are pretty good with dogs.
Yeah, sure.
He does have, and I'm sure we'll layer that in, but
Yeah.
when we figure out what's his trigger that I need to watch for and how to
Yep.
better, get in front of it?
Let me ask you this. So it's been a couple weeks since I've seen you last. Have you had any sort of issues since then?
None.
None?
Of course,
That's good.
I've had no issues with either of them since I scheduled these, but
Yeah,
follow
but
through
that
because
being
it's the
said-
right thing to do.
Yes. Now let's look at the why behind that, right? A lot of the why could be is you've just been more mindful of things.
Yeah, which is good. I think I got
Yeah.
COVID /
Sure.
we weren't doing anything, so
Yeah.
for sure.
All right, cool. Well, like I said, we'll just take a look real quick. I want to make sure he looks good, she looks good, then we'll move on to the next thing. We'll just kind of plug away. And like I said, we're going to treat these 5 sessions or whatever it is as let's just rebrush up on everything, make sure everything looks good, make sure we're good to go with stuff.
Yep.
So, I'll start with him.
Okay.
As we move through things, if there's things you have questions on or anything in particular where you're like, hey, this one command or thing, I feel like we don't have under control or whatever, that's fine. How's her come command?
Good. Especially with the dog.
Sure. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start today. I want to see if I can get them both to a place where they'll do come commands with me as well, just because obviously one of their big issues was stabilizing before. Now it's obviously trying to get back to you, so I want to get that attention shifted on me. So I'll just start with her, then we'll work on some with him, then I'm going to get you working with them a little bit. Come. Good. So just like with a sit, I'm giving that command right off the rip. If she does it, great. If she doesn't, I'll give a correction, then help her. Okay. No. Come. So I just want to try to get 1 or 2 reps calling away from you. So I'm going to give a lot of body language help here. No. Come. No. Come. No. Come. Come on. No. Come. Hey, come on. No. Come. Good job. There you go. Okay. First one's always the hardest, calling away from the owner. So I'm going to try to do a couple of those. I'll let her go back to you, and then I'll do another one. Come. Almost. No. Come. Hey, there you go. Good job. Okay. It's a little bit easier that time. Nice. So it's interesting, like that leash is just like such a cue for some dogs. The second it comes off, it's like they realize the control is off. And that's where you get into dogs that are like really well e-collar trained versus like okay e-collar trained is when you see that much of a contrast between leash on and leash off, right? Because realistically, the e-collar should resemble the same thing as the leash, right? But to her, she still has it in her head that that leash is the direct line of control, right? Good job. Come. Good job. Okay. Come. Nice. Good job. Okay. And I'll give her a minute. Like I said, you know, when I tell her okay, if she runs over to you, that's fine. Come. As long as she focuses back in when I ask her to. Okay. Come. Good. Okay. Good.
What's funny about like her, like I would expect him
Okay.
to like be jumping on my
Yeah.
lap and whatever, because that's like the dog.
Sure.
She is generally, like
Yeah.
obviously I know that you're seeing a different side.
Yeah, yeah.
But, like generally she's like, yeah,
Come.
you're the mom, but like I'm
Good.
independent, I don't need to be by you. I'm gonna go, you know, just chill out and lay down.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
It's just interesting to see.
Sure,
like,
sure.
different mindset.
Or it's, you know, in the home, our dogs can get this like, come, false sense of like security and control, right? Where like they become like independent through their insecurities almost.
Yeah.
Here you go. No? Okay. Where you take them somewhere new. That's why I love doing assessments out of the home. Like obviously seeing the behavior in the home is important, but outside of the home, you really just see more of the true dog, you know? Come. Good. Okay. I know. Come. But I mean, this is night and day from last time. Even from when we first started, this is night and day. Good. And that's because we're overcoming these really big hurdles. Like that right there, calling away from Hugh, massive, right? Okay. And you can tell just working through that alone, how much of a difference of her mindset.
So body language
Thor,
question
come.
for you on her.
Yep.
It's
Good.
like she's not working, she can calm down.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's fine, and she's also still like doing some like shaking.
Oh yeah.
So is she just working through it? Like,
Yeah.
is some of this at all concerning?
No. So, right, so dogs that are anxious exhibit in so many different ways, right? So originally her way of exhibiting it was the loud, hyperventilating whining, right? Like she kind of started with it a little bit. It wasn't as bad today as it was last time, but last time it was nonstop the entire session and loud, right? So now she's internalizing it a little bit more, right? But that anxiety and energy still needs to come out in some way, right? So it's kind of this progression that we'll see sometimes with dogs like her where it's like, they just like, it's so external initially, right? Like I'm anxious and I'm just throwing it into all these unwanted things, whether it's the like dragging me back to you, whether it's the barking, the whining, the, you know, unwanted behaviors, jumping on you, stuff like that, right? And then once they realize those things aren't an option, they're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do right now. So I just need to focus on staying right here in this moment, right? And that's really freaking hard for them to do initially, right? So that is basically the equivalent of her just working very hard right now, you know? So I wouldn't worry about it, you know? She'll be fine when you take her home. She'll probably pass out again.
Right. I mean, I know better. I know like a lot of this
Sure.
is like hard, you know,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you know.
I get it. I totally get it. And anxiety is one of those tough ones because like we want it to be this on-off switch where it's like she's anxious and then she's not anxious, right? But there's a whole middle ground that the dogs need to work through with that, you know? So it's a, you know, it is what it is. So let's go ahead and do this. Why don't you take her leash off? And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to do a couple recalls with both of them together here. Come. Good job, bud. Come. Come. Come on. There you go, good job. So when I first start working dogs together, especially if I just started working on whatever it is that I'm doing with them, I try to be very cautious of where I'm using a no marker, right? Because let's say right there, she was messing up, I said no every single time she messed up. Well, he was doing the right thing. So he would be sitting there like, wait a minute, am I doing something wrong? So I try to avoid that. So right there, I just gave the tap instead of it. Obviously, we will add that no marker back in, but initially when you're working them together, you could start to kind of just give the tap in that situation. Okay, come. Good. See if she's interested in any. Hey, okay. Come. Good.
He's never been this dramatic.
The dramatics behind the release is 100% contingent on like what is the reinforcement for them to go off, right? On a trail, obviously, quite a bit, right? So obviously that's gonna be an intense release. If I release my dogs for their food bowl, obviously that's gonna be pretty intense because they wanna get to that, right? But if it's like you just held an hour-long bed stay and I'm just telling you you can get up to wander around the house, it's more like, all right, you know? Free. I think a lot of people think they have this expectation of free being this, like it has to be this like poo, like, you know, like slingshotting out of position where that's 100% up to the dogs. Come. Now again, just talking body language and stuff, notice how it's shifting as we're going, right? She's still anxious. I'm not saying she's not anxious, right? But it's a more channeled, focused anxious. She's, you know, obviously she's refusing the food right now, but to the last 5 repetitions, she took food from me, right? She's looking back at you, but not in this panic anymore, right? I was able to call her away from you. I still needed 2 corrections, but it was nowhere near as hard as the last time. Free. So again, we're moving through the steps with things.
And now they're proving
Come.
like, we don't really want that very well.
Yeah. Good. But this is great. Nice. Good stuff. I think they look good.
Yeah.
I think she had a great day today. I think she worked through some really big hurdles and did very well. He did fine as well, you know. But again, like I know you. Again, I know you came in with him on your radar. You know, I'm putting a lot of attention into her right now.
No, I think.
And she's doing great. You know,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
really doing well. So they're doing super well.
I think it makes sense to me that this stuff for her
Yeah.
is harder.
Sure.
I have a little more confidence in just like how she is as a.
No, I got you.
Probably let
Yeah.
her have
Hey.
more leeway. His reaction, I'm hoping like at some point you can see like when he wigs out.
Yeah, but I'll tell you truthfully, like everybody says that. If we're doing our job properly, we shouldn't see it, you know? So, you know, if you're staying diligent at home, if we're starting to get on them more over stuff, we're understanding the situations, you know, we talked about the individual incidents that you had and what led to them in the first place, you know what I mean? Like, you really shouldn't
These things
see
like,
it.
just take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know,
That makes sense. I mean, actually, he's in so many scenarios with dogs that he's totally fine. So
Yeah.
it's always weird to me when he's just so
Hi, buddy.
reactive to them.
yeah. So, you know, we'll keep plugging away with things, obviously, but those were some big hurdles to get past just there today with them. They made some really good progress for just, you know, session 2, really. So what we'll do next time is make sure that looks good, obviously. You know, one thing we didn't really do a whole lot of because I was mostly focused on them was making sure they could transition back and forth between us nicely.
Yeah.
I'm sure that won't be a huge issue since we worked through the majority of the hurdle, which was calling away from you. And then we'll start getting right into distractions and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, like I said, as we're moving through these, if there's anything in particular you want to focus on, keep going. But I'm just looking at, like, when I do stuff like this, like these like shorter programs and stuff, session by session when they come in, I look at like, what does this dog need right now, you know? And both of them were pretty bad about in between their repetitions trying to drag me back to you. So man is something I need to work on, right? They need to have a little bit more respect with the handler with that, you know?
Yeah, and that's definitely, I've always been the primary.
Sure.
So, that makes sense.